Every step towards your goals requires sacrifice, suffering, struggle, and tireless exertions of passionate action. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. The steps to becoming great are not giant leaps, but small steps of moving forward each moment. Life is a long road, so we stay focused, we stay hopeful, and we keep moving forward. There's a reason the windshield is so much larger than the rearview mirror. The longer we keep looking back, we don't just miss what's ahead, but the road ahead can become more dangerous than the one behind. The most important thing we can do is respond to everything in life with a resolve to learn and be better than we were the moment before. We believe that progress is greater than perfection, that becoming is greater than being, and that we'll become greater by moving always forward.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Always Forward. I'm here joined with Dr. Casey Moss. Good morning, Casey.
Hey, good morning, Phil. Good morning, Jameson.
All right, guys, so we're going to jump right in here in a second. First, we want to thank Boxstar. We're wearing their shirts today. We did a little bit of a content shoot for them last night, and so you guys will see some of that content and some of that material soon. But if you want to go on their website, boxstarapparel.com, and then use our code FORWARD, you can get buy one get one 50% off for that. So today we are still in our series, the 5 Factors of Health, and we're going to talk through our second factor of health, which is sleep. So it's eat, sleep, train, think, connect. We did our simplifying nutrition episode to kick that off, and so now we're going to talk about sleep. And so we thought, let's bring in somebody smarter than us to talk through that. So Phil, you can kind of take it and walk through the stuff with Casey, and then we'll just go from there.
Awesome. So Casey, kind of give us just a quick breakdown, how long you've been practicing, and kind of give us just a brief rundown.
Yeah, so it's awesome to be here. I've been a pediatrician here in town, and been practicing for 11 years, so I'm eventually going to get good at it. I'm still practicing. And
I love how they call it practice. Like, how long you been practicing?
Yeah, I mean, what do y'all call it in the gym? Is it still practicing? I mean, do you ever get to compete?
Training, practicing, competing, yeah. That's a good point.
So maybe next week I'm going to compete at the office and just to see how that goes. No, I've been doing this for 11 plus years, and I think it's interesting you picked me for sleep. So if the listeners can't sleep, they're going to watch or listen to this. Is that what was happening here? I appreciate that a lot.
Perfect. Well, we really appreciate you coming onto the show. So let's kind of talk about summary of sleep. I've always heard sleep is called like, hey, this is your superpower. Kind of go through like a quick brief summary of what happens to the body when you sleep, and why is sleep so important and we're going basic because you're a pediatrician,
yeah.
Right? Basic from child all the way to grown adult.
Oh yeah, so that'll be fun. It'd be good to join you guys for the next month of podcast. So welcome. I'm going to get a shirt before this is over. But so sleep is one of those fundamental things of life, and I think you guys having that as one of the factors of health is really, really important. And it's often overlooked, and it's one of the things that's first to go. And nobody's going to come to the gym and, hey, I'm going to show up and I'm not going to eat. And then after the gym, I'm not going to eat or drink anything today. Like, nobody would ever do that. But you see that a lot. And it's not just in the gym, and we'll talk about that today, but it's in multiple areas of life that people are cutting sleep. As a matter of fact, studies have shown now, compared to 60 years ago, people sleep about 2 hours less a day. And that's not good. Sleep should be, average is 7 to 9 hours a night. Anything less than 6 hours is considered sleep deprivation. And so now we all know these people who say, well, I sleep 3 hours a night and I'm fine. And yeah, there's these enigmas or these things out there that exist. But we also know, people who do other things in training or in work or in life. They're way outside normal. But for the rest of us normal people, it's normal for a reason. And so I think it's really important. Sleep as a superpower is a great way of thinking about that. If you think about a superpower, that sleep allows you to literally live longer, be healthier, smarter, happier, and it's something. The great thing about that is something anybody can do. So not anybody can fly or like shoot spider webs from their hands, but anybody can do this. So it's a superpower. It's the secret is that it's the superpower, not that you have it or don't have it.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool That's a cool way to think about it, because obviously it's like the common man superpower. Like it is the thing everyone is capable of doing. Also, like you said, while it's the first thing to go in our 5 factors of health, so eat, sleep, train, think, connect, it's typically the first thing. It is the first thing to go. I mean, poor nutritional habits we see are super common. But the first thing to probably take the biggest hit is your sleep, because it is the easiest thing to sacrifice. However, I guess I would argue, and I feel like most people would agree, that it's, of the 5, probably the most enjoyable, like at the same time. So even though it is the first often to go, like everybody does enjoy resting, I think. And so it seems like maybe one of the things that we want to combat in this episode is just providing information and motivation and even inspiration about why you should sleep, because it feels like in culture people wear an ability to operate in sleep deprivation day after day after day. They wear that as like a badge of honor almost.
Oh yeah, I mean, so you think about it. If you need 8 hours of sleep, right? And so people are going to say, well, I went to bed late because I was up doing this work, and I got early and only slept 5 hours. And they're right. It's like a cool thing. But nobody comes in and says, you know what? I know I'm supposed to do, this AMRAP they're doing, and I'm supposed to hit 20, but I'm being like super awesome in the gym. I'm going to cut that back to 15 today. Yeah. So I'm going to quit early, and I'm going to do a whole lot less than I'm supposed to. Aren't I awesome?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens maybe to help inspire people to get those other 2 hours? If we're sleeping 5 hours or 6 hours, how do we get to 8 to inspire that? Explain maybe quickly what happens, like what's happening to us when we sleep.
Yeah, so I think you're exactly right. We need to understand why sleep is so important, both what is happening when you sleep and what happens when you don't sleep. And so I think that's a great thing. There's a lot that happens when you sleep. It's not simply just turning your computer off. It's a lot more, if you think about it in that analogy, people used to think sleep is, hey, we powered it off, it just sits there. But it's more system maintenance that's happening, and a lot of background activity that cannot happen during the day when the processor and the hard drive is busy doing other things. So sleep is more, hey, we're in a different mode of usefulness and activity than just shut down. The great thing about this is research is constantly ongoing. It used to be years and years ago, people thought, hey, it just, you turn it off. But now we realize there's all sorts of stuff happening. And so the brain is the single most active organ in the body during sleep. Tons of brainwave activities. For instance, in learning, it's thought that sleep is where the things you learn during the day are sort of processed and organized and stored. It's one of the reasons when you're sleep deprived, you don't learn as well. You can also recall as well, because all of that, you think about it's like your desk. You put all that new information on the desktop. When you sleep at night, somebody goes in and files all that, and they put it in the file folders, they put it in the file cabinet, so then when you need it, you know where to go get it. If you're not sleeping, it's just a pile on the desk. After a couple of nights of that pile of stuff is swept off on the floor, and then you spend all that time learning something, you can't remember it, or you can't process through it quickly because it wasn't sorted and stored correctly during sleep.
From a mental perspective, or from almost like an informational processing perspective, sleep is the way that you hit the save button on what you've done throughout the day.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what happens.
Interesting.
And it's not just saves it in an organized fashion where you can recall that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's linked to memory. It's the biggest the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
That you're talking about is memory. Is like that's like the key thing that it's linked to.
Yep, absolutely. It is, and that's why the brain's most active. But it does other things, and particularly for I think a lot of your listeners, sleep is also back to the brain. It's also where a lot of metabolic processes are happening at night. A lot of sort of the garbage disposal system, if you would simplify it down that much, a lot of the waste from the brain is getting removed at night because you're not doing other things. It's able to take that time and energy to get itself cleaned up, literally cleaned up. The body does the same thing. And so during sleep, for instance, is when growth hormone is released its most. So it's one of the reasons that one of the keys for healthy growth in children is healthy sleep habits. But it's also going to be where just the breakdown of muscle tissue is repaired at night when you sleep. And there's true hormonal reasons for that. There's certain things like growth hormone that are released at night. And so part of your recovery from the gym is going to be sleep at night. Those things happen and restore the body while you sleep.
So you're saying like testosterone levels, stuff like that, help and continue further even more when you're sleeping, when you're getting that rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we talk about, it's which side of the coin do you want to look at? So you have all these healthy things that happen while you're sleeping. So that's the benefit. But then on the other side, if you're not sleeping, those good things are not happening.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk specifically then, because we do say, I mean, I think one of the statements that I say often, and I know that other trainers in the gym say, is if you want to reach our goal, which is 5 factors of health, not the 5 factors of becoming a professional bodybuilder, 5 factors of health, functional, like well-being, the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. If you want to get to wellness and then move past that to fitness, you absolutely have to sleep. And so one of the factors, one of the elements of being healthy is being lean, like a lean body composition, and that is what people want. Like, people think that they want to be whatever ripped means or chiseled or whatever out of the gym, but really what people want is to feel confidently lean in their body composition. And so we say often, like, well, if you want to look lean, you need to sleep, because of, I guess, what you're saying, your body's ability to process, to heal, to recover, to take what you're doing in the gym and not just throughout the day hit the save button and organize all the information that you put in your brain, but to hit the save button on the work you've done in the gym is essentially like the, yes, save, are you sure you want to save, confirm. That's what sleep is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it fits nicely between eat and train. So here's another one for you. So when you sleep at night, one of the hormones released also has to do with appetite suppression, what's called satiety. So people who are not sleeping, who are chronically sleep deprived, are more likely to crave high carb foods. They're going to be more likely to eat larger meals. They're going to want to eat more food. So all that happens because at night the hormones that regulate these things aren't being secreted and processed the way they're supposed to be. So it's going to be even more difficult to achieve the health and the fitness that you're talking about if you're not sleeping. And it's not just a mental deal, it really is physically, which is why sleep deprivation is linked to higher obesity. And it goes back to a neuroendocrine process that's there directly related to sleep deprivation.
Yeah. So I think we shared a stat just in our general 5 factors of health, where I think that it was infants, or not infants, but children and adolescents were like 80% plus more likely to trend towards obesity if they live a lifestyle of sleep deprivation, and for adults it was like 55% or something more likely. Those numbers are accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at just some overall health, and again, benefits of or detriments of not. And so it's one of those things, you either sleep or you don't.
Right.
And so, and it really is important that you're hitting those marks. So here you go. After one week, so this a lot of this stuff happens quick. Now, you're not going to develop obesity in a week, but some of the other some of these things that you're seeing in the brain happen that quickly.
So we're talking benefits of sleep.
Benefits of sleep. And I kind of broke this down, like overall health, intelligence, emotional health, and then I have a little stuff just about the athlete for you as well. But so benefits of sleep. 1 week of sleep loss leads to coronary artery narrowing, brain tissue loss, chronic sleep deprivation. Again, that's less than 6 hours on average, and a lot of people are hitting 4 and 5. I think 6 is a good night's sleep. 6 is not. I mean, it's really 7 to 9 hours is what we're aiming for here. Increased risk of infection, stroke, cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease, and infertility. All are associated with chronic sleep deprivation. And so sleep loss increases your risk of obesity, and obesity increases your risk for basically everything bad in the entire world. That's the short version.
It's linked to all chronic diseases and chronic illnesses.
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to say that if you can sleep 9 hours and you don't have to worry about the other factors of health, but I am saying if you're not sleeping well at night, then you are really you're shooting yourself in the foot when you're trying to accomplish these others, because they all do link together.
So let's talk about some more of those benefits. So we talked about memory, right? And we talked about hormones. And hormones are linked to so many different things, mentally, physically. And so let's kind of keep on going through those. Like, what are a couple more of those benefits? And then we'll start breaking in those detriments just a little bit more.
Okay, so let me do this. Let me go back to intelligence and sleep for a second, because there's a couple things I think the listeners are going to find super fascinating. So we talked about how that works, but there have been studies that have shown they take people and they sleep deprive them. And again, less than 6 hours. We're not talking up like 4 and 5 days at a time. We can talk about that later. Twice as likely to be able to solve moderate to complex problems if they sleep 7 to 8 hours as compared to 6 or less. If you look at the cognitive loss, so we're talking about being the crammers, hey, let's stay up all night. Cognitive loss associated with being awake for 24 hours at a time. So if you're awake for 24 hours, you function at a level lower than what would be considered the intoxicated limit for drunk driving in most states. That's really where you're functioning at that point. And it just gives you an idea. That's how important these things are with the way you process work. We're talking about other benefits. We talked about the repair, talked about goals. So if you look at professional athletes, and I mean, they're professional. We're not trying to make, obviously, everybody a professional athlete. Right. But I was doing some numbers. So Usain Bolt, the sprinter, sleeps 8 to 10 hours a night. Roger Federer, about 11. Good. And LeBron James has been reported to sleep about 12 hours a night.
Because he's so much bigger.
Yeah. So Tiger Woods, about 5 hours. So, I mean, you can just take that for what it's worth.
Was that a little jab at Tiger?
Either Tiger or golf. I mean, I don't know. It could be both.
So perfect. Actually, let's pause then. Let's do a little hot take here.
Okay.
Oh dear. So, I've been studying for these. I'm so worried.
Okay.
Just let Casey answer this one.
Yeah.
I'm so nervous.
We didn't come up with one.
Well, I thought about one, a couple this morning. Okay. Pancakes or waffles?
Are we talking breakfast or like meal?
Doesn't matter. Oh. Brenner?
No. I mean, Sunday night supper is breakfast.
That's a good point.
So I mean, and other things are not.
Okay.
Right. So here's the thing.
So just general concept. Like if somebody's like, "Hey, do you want a pancake or do you want a waffle?"
Okay. So if I'm at home, it's a pancake. If I'm out, it's a waffle.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So homemade pancakes, store-bought waffles.
Not store-bought. Oh, no store-bought. Did you listen to the episode last week? Store-bought waffles? I let go of my ego, man. That's why I look like I do.
Okay, so pancakes, I would say pancakes.
Pancake.
I don't know. That's hard. I don't know.
It's a hot take, James, and not a medium warm take.
I'm feeling indecisive. Probably pancakes.
I'd probably say pancakes.
Okay.
I'm pancakes any day.
Good.
Now,
okay.
A good Belgian waffle.
Exactly, but it takes more time and preparing, which is why you do it when somebody else is cooking for you.
There you go.
So
perfect. Well, let us know, listeners. Pancake or waffle?
Pancakes or waffles?
Hashtag Lego my ego.
I let it go, man. No more egos.
So now we've drilled in a little bit more of the intelligence piece. So what else? What else? What are those other benefits?
So here's a good one. Emotional health, and you guys are going to talk about that probably a lot with Think and Connect. But emotional health, and this is where it gets the catch-22 of all. So if you are emotionally unhealthy and unconnected, sleep can become a problem. It can be hard to sleep because of that. But also, not sleeping will make that worse. Or if you want to look at it as a benefit, sleeping will make it better. Yeah. And so here's so there's a biochemical basis for that. When you sleep, there's certain neurotransmitters. That's just the way that the neurons or the cells in the brain talk to each other. They are increased, and the flow of those, I guess, is for lack of a better word, is increased during sleep for the neurotransmitters associated with mood and that type of stuff. So you find then, if you're not sleeping, then you realize, hey, this is going to be a problem. So quick facts for you, but sleep loss leads to a 4-fold decrease in empathy levels. So when you're in the gym and I say, man, this is heavy, and you're like, who cares? It's because you didn't sleep well. Like literally you have brain damage because your neurotransmitters did not reset last night when you were supposed to be asleep.
Love that.
So there you go. Or, and this is fascinating, but people with insomnia.
Need our to make sure to sleep.
Sleep more. It should be one of the things. It should be. I mean, really, sleep should have been number one factor.
That's crazy.
I
Wow.
mean, you brought the expert on for it, by the way, so it's because I like some sleep. But here you go. People with insomnia, so chronic sleep deprivation, 10 times more likely to develop depression and 17 times more likely to deal with anxiety. So from sleep from chronic sleep loss, from insomnia. So, and again, you could look at that and say, if you are in a bad mood and you think everybody in the world is out to get you, one of the reasons for that literally may be your neurotransmitters are messed up because you're not sleeping well. And we all know that cognitively, right? Oh, they're in a bad mood, they didn't sleep well. Or kids, oh, somebody needs a nap. Yeah. And we say that, but somehow we don't act on the fact that we intuitively know it to be true.
Yeah, no, and I think you're exactly right, because it's like, you ever met somebody that works third shift?
Yeah.
That works all night long, and they may sleep a couple hours at a time because they're having to get up because their sleep is off and stuff, and they're just in a bad mood. You seem like they're in a bad mood all the time.
Yep.
And it makes perfect sense. And I know you have younger kids, and I have younger kids, and you're exactly right. Like you can tell when a child's like, "Hey, you need to go take a nap," right?
Yeah, well, it used to be before I had kids. That was something that I thought people said when their kids were just ill-tempered or they hadn't done a good job as a parent. But then you have kids, and you're like, no, really. I mean, there are times that our children are almost different people when they are not rested. And it's crazy because, again, we know that, but yet we somehow assume that doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, that is crazy. So you said one thing talking about, I mean, obviously those statistics should be motivating enough just to think about being 4 times less likely to be able to empathize, or 17 times more likely to
deal with anxiety,
yeah.
10 times for depression.
Okay, yeah, those numbers by themselves should be motivating enough. But if I consider the typical listener that comes into, like our typical listener who's going to be somebody who consistently comes into the gym, is there evidence, are there statistics to support performance and sleep?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you asked.
Perfect. Great segue.
It's a perfect segue.
There was one article that I read that was talking about priming for a competition, specifically for CrossFit. And it was talking through this idea that if you do not sleep that 7 to 8 hours a night leading up to the competition, even the day before, getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep the day before, because it was talking about the nervous jitters and stuff, and you got to overcome that. You got to get your sleep. You are going your aerobic capacity, your ability to perform in your aerobic capacity is going to decrease by 30% or something like that.
Yeah, you're going to see different statistics all over the place. One of the places I saw had a 20-25% reduction in reaction times, stamina, accuracy, and speed. And so, 20%, that's a lot. And if somebody came in to you as coaches in this gym and said, hey, can you get my speed up 20%? Can you get my reps up here? Can you get these things up by 20%? That's a significant goal.
Yeah.
And particularly when you get to a more elite performing athlete, which is why I threw those guys out earlier. We were just hanging out the other night. I was asking them how much they slept, and it just seemed like that would be great for this. And because they are at the top and they see their bodies as a machine in many ways, and they've got to keep that thing. That's their livelihood. And so they've got it. 20% is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so somebody comes in and says that to you, they're going to be looking to do whatever it takes to get to that level. And you say, listen, what you need to do is go home and go to bed.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. And I think more broader scope for the listeners, it's that way. We're going to pick a bunch of college students listening to this thing, right? Because school starts soon. And the idea of cramming is terrible. It's the absolute worst thing you can do. And we've all had that experience. And you stay up way late the night before, and then all those things we talked about didn't happen, and you can't think straight. And in the same way, just like you guys talk a lot on the podcast about training the brain, and it's trained the body as well. And so sleep does both. And then we spend a lot of time talking, and that's just where the research is brainwave activity. But absolutely, a lot of emerging research into sports performance. A lot of these guys are hiring, they have their physical, their trainers, their coaches, they have their nutritionists. But a lot of these elite top performing athletes are hiring sleep coaches to come in and make sure that they're hitting that. 20% is the difference between, winning a championship and sitting home watching somebody play while you're on Xbox.
Yeah.
Well, and I like what you said, 20%. If you look at most athletes, especially here in our gym, they don't PR, they don't personal record a lift, a run by 20% over a 6-month period. Yeah. A 20% gain, and just kind of you think about mental capacity, right? My oldest child was in 2nd grade, so she started learning a lot more math and doing other things. But I would say maybe a not even a 20% gain was probably known mentally through an entire year of second grade, right? Like, I just want people to understand, like, how much 20% is and how long it takes you to gain 20%. That's amazing that it's like you lose 20% like that.
Yeah, it's just gone. And I think a great way of looking at it is, and obviously your goal isn't to continue every night to sleep 20% more than the night before, right? Because that's not. But I think a way of looking at that, if you want to hit that 20%, let's talk about like PRing sleep. So how many days this week did you sleep 7, 8, 9 hours? Right. And then what's your target? I mean, that's what you're aiming for. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody needs to sleep 12 hours every night. But you want to hit what's your target. Hey, I mean, I think that would be awesome. Come in, yeah, man, PR. I have slept 10 days in a row more than 8 hours. So,
yeah, no, that makes sense, and I think that it's interesting too because we've tied like gym performance sometimes to this mystery of you hear it all the time. Man, some days are heavy, some days it's not. Like, you can lift the same weight on a deadlift, you can squat the same weight, and some days you're like, oh man, it feels heavy today. And yeah, there probably is a little bit of like mystery to that, but these other factors I think are what plays the biggest role in that. And so you can probably oftentimes on those weeks or those days that performing well seems a little bit more difficult, like times in workouts are slowing down, weights feel heavier. Like that first question of what are you eating and what are you sleeping?
Absolutely.
How are you sleeping? What are you like? What's in your body and how you're processing it? That's probably what's causing the difference between your deadlift feeling light and your deadlift feeling heavy at that point. And so being able just to communicate to people like, okay, like you want to, yes, be healthy. You want to look lean. You want the right body composition. You want all of those things. But also for our clients, your goal is performance. So if you want to perform better, imagine performing in a matter of a week, sleeping 8 hours a night and performing 20% better.
Well, I think one of the things that you guys do a great job of here is talking about the importance of quality over quantity, which is why you're not recommending people are in the gym for 3 and 4 and 5 hours and you're not doing 2-a-days on everybody because you understand that quality beats quantity. But yet at the same time, people are like, well, and I'm not trying to talk you guys out of coming to the gym, but what I'm saying is if you're getting up an hour and a half early to get that extra time in the gym because you need that quantity, but you're not sleeping, your quality in the gym is going to suffer to the point. I mean, honestly, some days you would be better off sleeping and cutting your time in the gym in half.
So let's ask this question. So our members specifically hear it from a medical doctor who went to school for longer than a lot of people.
Oh man, this is going to be good. I'm ready.
We say, and we're going to talk about this on our train episode. Mm-hmm. When we say train, we want you in the gym 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But remembering that train comes after sleep. So if your options are you've hit 4 days in a row, you've hit Monday through Thursday, and you've done really, really well in the gym, and you can hit that 5th day, which is our target. We want you in the gym 5 days. You've done well Monday through Thursday, but Thursday night, something happens, you're up late. Your only time to get to the gym is at our 6:30 class, like our 6:30 a.m. class, but you don't go to sleep until 1:30. Is it better to get the 5th day of training, or is it better to skip that morning of training and get the 8 hours of sleep?
Oh, I would skip and get the 8 hours of sleep.
Okay,
because
you heard it here.
You're not going to perform like you should in the gym. Okay, and you got to remember it actually could be worse than that. So you didn't rest well. Okay, so you're coming in the gym with very heavy weights. I mean, if you're me, very, very heavy weights over your head, right? You didn't sleep the night before, so my muscles have not had a chance to recuperate and recover that night. Okay, I'm coming in with, depending on how poorly I slept, my cognitive functioning is going to be declined. My attention span is going to be declined. With muscles that aren't where they need to be recovered, my chance of injury goes way up. So in your scenario, I just think you have to think about the gym on Saturday and Sunday and the next week and the next 6 weeks. And do you want to miss all of those because you're in a cast, because you have an injury, or you're going to miss that one day? And so it's not as easy as, hey, I'm just going to go check this box. There are other things that are at play there. So please do us all a favor, stay home and go to sleep. And you're going to be grumpy. I mean, let's face it, you're going to be grumpy. The weights are going to be heavy. It's just no bueno. Go to bed. Stay in bed.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and start segueing into what are 5 things that you can do today. So what are 5 things people can start doing tonight when they're listening to this to help them get better sleep? And it may start in the very beginning of the day and kind of do things throughout. But let's go ahead and Go into those.
Yeah, so you just totally stole my thunder. Like if you're watching or listening to this at night, then your sleep tonight, you're already way behind because a good night's sleep starts in the morning. Boxstar, right? I mean,
That's a good shirt.
Okay, seriously, I'm thinking Boxstar pajamas. I mean, I really think that would drive home the
We
message.
send this to Jason.
Okay.
Right away.
There you go.
I like it.
Jason squared.
Jason squared. While we're talking about Boxstar, I do appreciate your guys' sponsors because here's the thing: when you come to the gym, it's important to dress right. I mean, look at the three of us, and for more than one reason, you can tell which one does not go to the gym every day like they should. So, there you go.
Yeah,
So
nobody is going to let us look at their kids and tell them if they're sick or not. So
that's true. Unless they might, if they didn't sleep well last night, they would just do. They're 20% less likely to pick an appropriate pediatrician at Hamlin Pediatrics, a division of Summit Medical Group, just down the street
Oh, that's a
at
good plug.
1405 South
Good plug.
Sizer.
good plug.
HPApeach.com. So you were talking about 5 factors of sleep. Okay, so let's go through these. And I promise for the listeners, I came up with this list on my own. But number 1, a good night's sleep begins during the day. Eat right and exercise.
Perfect.
So it does. And we've all had that experience. You cannot have that late night snack of whatever it is you shouldn't be eating at night. See previous episode. You're not going to sleep well that night. Like physically, you just are not going to be able to do that. And one of the common things, I just lay down and I'm not tired. Part of that is going to be solved with exercise during the day. I mean, we're not in here right before and getting all pumped up and then trying to lay down and go to sleep right away. But if you're not eating right and exercising, you're not going to sleep well. And that's the crazy thing about these 5 factors. If you do them all, they all help each other.
So how many hours would you suggest stopping to eat before you go to bed?
So depends on the person. A lot of this is going to be age specific. So like, if you're a baby, then you get your bottle right before bed. But if you're not taking your, you're not taking your protein shake by bottle, I would give it a couple hours. But it depends also on what it is that you're eating.
Yeah, if you're eating for performance, it's going to be way different than if you're eating for just the normal healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and so because your goal is different, what you're actually the composition of what you're eating is different. And so the big bowl of ice cream is probably not going to be on the performance plan, and it's good that that's also not right before you go to bed either. So number 1, eat right and exercise. Speaking of other things, number 2, cut out the coffee. Particularly after about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Caffeine effects can last up to 6 hours. And again, when we're talking about sleep, it is a quantity issue, but it's also a quality issue. So you have people that will say, hey, well, I can drink all the coffee I want, I have trouble falling asleep. That may be true, but your quality of sleep that you're trying to hit isn't there. So like me lifting an empty barbell 100 times versus Jameson doing it fully loaded, I mean, we're doing the same number. The quantity is the same, but the quality is different. So we've talked a lot about quantity of sleep, but we also need to do some things to encourage quality of sleep as well. Cool. So cutting out the caffeine is also important there.
Cool.
Number 3, and this is a big one, and if you go back to the very beginning, we talked about why we said we're sleeping on average 2 hours less a night. Why is that? Well, Phil, you alluded to just the job market's different. We got third shift. We got people living 24-hour lives now, and that's not really the way that we were put together. So that's one of the reasons. The other reasons are screens. If you want to sleep good at night, quantity and quality, you have got to turn the screens off. And this is, man, I talk a lot about this in the office, but you've got to get the phone, the iPad, everything, and computers, TV, all of that stuff needs to get out of the bedroom for kids and for adults. And so I would just say, if we know that as parents, we have to parent ourselves a little bit and say, charge that thing out in the other room. So, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One, that constant signal going off is waking you up and interrupting the quality of your sleep patterns. But also the light, the electronics emit a certain blue wavelength of light. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. But that signals the brain, hey, it's time to wake up. Which is why when the sun comes up, that's why you wake up.
Right.
And so those things are telling your brain, hey, be awake, be awake, be awake. And you're trying to sleep and wondering why it's not working. So turn the lights off. And not just like at night right before bed, but really maybe an hour, 2 hours before bed, start turning things down.
You would say, when we're talking about light specifically, you do mean obviously screens, computers, phones, iPads, all that kind of stuff, TV.
Everything.
All the screens, but what about other light in general? Like, you can fall asleep anywhere. Like, you can fall asleep in a bright lit area. People fall asleep under the sun on the beach.
Yeah.
You can fall asleep anywhere, but in terms of the quality of sleep that you get, does your body actually process better? Does it rest better? Does it sleep better in total pitch black?
So yes, the darker the better in terms of getting to sleep, staying asleep, and the quality of what's called your sleep architecture is way better in the dark.
Okay.
Absolutely. And there's a whole that's a fascinating science behind the brain and the light and the part. There's actually you have a third eye in your brain that sees light and tells the brain whether it's daytime or dark, and will tell you whether you're supposed to be awake or not, and how you're supposed to be sleeping because of that.
So you would say that essentially that key is screens off, lights off.
Screens off, lights off. As a matter of fact, if if you're of a certain age and you get up in the middle of the night multiple times to go to the bathroom, don't be flipping that light on. It is telling your brain time to wake up.
Yeah.
And even if you don't feel more awake, your brain feels more awake. If you're brushing your teeth at night, a little night light, one of those like little 1 watt jobs that's just barely on, so you don't stub your toe and break your foot, but you need to keep the lights down.
Gotcha.
And that leads into number 4. Bedtime routines. They're not just for children. And so part of those, it really helps your body to get into routine. And I know in the gym, on one hand, it's like, hey, routine's bad. Well, some routines are, but some routines are good, like coming to the gym and stretching. And so getting consistent with this is bedtime. And an hour and a half before bedtime, this is what I start doing. And I start turning lights off. I'm shutting my body down. I'm shutting my brain down. I'm not doing high physical intensity or emotional intensity or thought process intensity activity right before bed. I'm turning everything down, and we do that basically the same time every night. We get up about the same time every day. This idea of I'm going to stay up super late on Friday nights and Saturday nights, but then I've got to go to work. And you're having more than about an hour and a half swing there can really cause some problems. So consistency and routine, I would say, is your number 4 thing that you can do to improve your sleep tonight.
Cool.
Cool. Great segue to number 5. What temperature should it be to sleep? So
I've heard lots and lots about temperature.
Yeah. So this point is brought to you at least in the summer by Appalachian Electric. Current science would say, and this is according to the National Sleep Foundation, which would be where I would work if I didn't work where I do, just down the street. Bring your kids if you need a well visit before school. I would work at the National Sleep Foundation because, what a great job. You could sleep during the day, at night. Guys, sorry I'm late. I was doing some research. Isn't that great?
No kidding.
60 to 68 degrees. So got to cool it down at night to sleep. And part of that, so you hear the old adage of take a warm bath and then drink a warm drink. That actually can help you get sleepy because you warm up, and then as your body is cooling down, a cooling down body is a signal to go to sleep, just like night, which is why it gets cooler at night. I mean, lots of reasons, but that's one of them. So that also can signal you, hey, it's time to go to bed. So crank that thermostat down. And the wool pajamas and the wool, all that stuff, you've got to. You want to be cool to sleep.
Yeah, so 60 to 68 degrees is a big range. So you just play with it to see if you're just too cold to fall asleep, then that doesn't work for you, or
yeah, I mean if you're in there shivering and doing jumping jacks because you can't feel your toes anymore, that was too cold.
Right.
But you want to play around with it, and a lot of times that's gonna change summer versus winter and outside temperature, what you perceive to be temperature. But it is one of those things you kind of have to play around with. In the same way, 7 to 9 hours is a big range. What do you need? Well, I would say you got to play around that, and and if you don't know, ask someone close to you. Just let them know. This is what I slept last night, and just secretly have them rank your mood, your performance, your empathy, and you'll find out pretty quick. Come on, we all know this. We know that when we don't sleep 5 hours, if we sleep 5-6 hours at night, we're cranky, and we get a good night's sleep several nights in a row, we feel better. And really, the point of all this whole podcast is to put some science and some facts behind that, so that you, for whatever reason, feel justified to do what you know is right anyway.
Yeah. No, I love it. That's a lot of people have nutrition or diaries, that they write in journals. It would be great to have a sleep journal.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you could see, okay, how did I feel last night? How much did I sleep? And I'm sure, elite level athletes and people that play, elite level sports do that kind of stuff. So, Dr. Moss, thank you for coming on today.
Hey, you're quite welcome. Let me just throw this out, though, just the whole doctor bit. I will say there are actual medical problems that can lead to sleep. And we've talked a lot about sleep issues. And in the same way in the gym, there are certain modifications have to happen with certain physical ailments, certain disease states, that are certain injury states. I would just say to you that also exists for sleep, and poor sleep can be the sign of other things. And so if you're doing all this stuff and you're still just not getting there, let me just throw two things out there. Over-the-counter sleep aids are not all they're cracked up to be. They'll mess with your sleep architecture. So if you're using those, it should be for a very short, limited, finite duration. And if you, quote, need that more, that's a sign that something else is going on. And so you may actually need to seek a real doctor for your age group. So, man, I'm great for kids. You start getting old, like 18, 20, I start topping out. So, but I just would throw that out there. In the same way, there are going to be certain things you can handle in the gym, and sometimes you need to go see an orthopedist about that ankle. The same is true with sleep. Some folks listening to this need to talk to their actual primary care physician, and that's okay. And it's no different than some of these other things that you talk about. There are times that, now they're going to tell you everything else I've told you, so save yourself a copay and do that first. So don't go when you're like up all night watching Netflix and then tell your doctor you can't sleep, because that's going to be kind of annoying, especially if he didn't sleep well last night. But if you're doing this stuff and still having problems, keep in mind that you may need to seek actual professional medical care.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Cool. So real quick, rapid fire of those 5 things as we finish. So a good night's sleep begins in the day.
Yep.
And then from there,
eat right and exercise. No caffeine after 2 p.m. Turn off the lights and turn down the thermostat.
sleep in the dark and sleep cool. Nice.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. All right, next week we'll talk through what it looks like to train in our 5 factors of health. So we eat, we sleep, and then we train. So we'll talk about that next week.
Awesome. Cool. Out.